Welcome to SuperTalk, the podcast that scratches your superhero itch. Just two suburban dads nerding out over superhero stuff on the small screen and the big. Buckle up, people. Enjoy the ride. Excellent. Hey, YouTube. Let's polymorphous and start embiggening ourselves.
Let's do it.
Pardon the dogs. In 3.
Welcome to SuperTalk, the weekly podcast dedicated to news and reviews of comic book media on the big and small screen. This is episode number 62. I'm your host, Brian Professor Pettis, and with me, as always, is my illustrious co-host, Titanium Tony Estrella. Titanium.
Professor Pettis, take us to school.
Yeah,
I was about to correct you. I was like, no, it's what? 62?
I know.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's the Roger Maris episode. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's great. So, let's get started. We got a few things to chat about this week. But first, before we get started, like we do every week, we want to thank the patrons. These are the listeners that bring the show to you directly by sponsoring the show. Patreon.com/SuperTalk is how you can become a patron. And you donate $1 an episode, and you help us out, and you support the show directly. So Patreon.com/SuperTalk if you want to become a patron of SuperTalk.
Thank you to those fans, future and past. Thank you very much.
All right, well, let's jump right into the review section. And a couple things I wanted to talk about this week. I know this is not directly related to comic book media, but it is somewhat indirectly related, and we'll kind of talk about this. But The Atom Project came out on Netflix last week, and this is Ryan Reynolds' new movie on the Netflix streaming series service.
It's like a sci-fi fic.
Yeah, it's an interesting, and I thought very entertaining movie. But the reason why it's somewhat related. Obviously, our favorite merc with the mouth, Ryan Reynolds plays DeadPool in the now the MCU, which was the old Sony universe. But he's in the movie. We had a bunch of other Marvel actors in the movie as well. We had Mark Ruffalo played a starring role in the movie. He was played Ryan Reynolds' father in the movie. So our favorite Bruce Banner, the Hulk, was in there. Zoe Saldana, who plays Gamora in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. She was in the movie.
Yep.
And the movie was, more importantly, directed by Sean Levy, who's going to be directing Deadpool 3. So he was announced as the director of Deadpool 3. This is now the second project they've worked on together. They worked on
Free Guy
together, and now The Atom Project, and they liked working together so much that Sean signed on to do Deadpool 3. So I thought it was good. What about you? It was entertaining, right?
I really liked it.
Yeah,
I was shocked. I love Ryan Reynolds. I thought the kid that played in the movie was fantastic.
Played Adam, the young Ryan Reynolds.
He played like a young Ryan Reynolds. Like
I love the dialogue they gave him.
Awesome.
It was like Ryan Reynolds wrote his dialogue so that he could be a smartass like he is in real life.
Oh yeah,
I got that like early on. Like, okay, he's playing a young Ryan Reynolds.
Brilliant.
Basically.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was
very entertaining.
Very entertaining. And again, the fact that we had some Marvel stars in the movie, and I think we can kind of feel this is a kind of vibe they're going to be going for. Obviously, a little bit more gritty and a little bit more R-rated when we get to Deadpool 3. Yeah. But I think they did well. The project did well, and the movie's doing very well on Netflix. So go check it out. It's really cool. We did have another release this week. We got the full trailer for the Ms. Marvel series dropped by Marvel this past week. They gave us the full intro trailer for the series. And it was interesting. It was better than I expected. So
okay, let's be honest.
Yeah.
They hit it out of the park with the trailer. I thought the trailer and the treatment of the trailer was brilliant. The comic book bubbles, the way the music, The Weeknd, that was awesome. The Weeknd, the song that they used for the trailer was great. The treatment of the trailer I thought was awesome. I am very skeptical of this show.
Yeah.
I think there's so much pressure for them to get it right. The first, Arab American, Muslim American type of superhero. I think the pressure on this was very high, and I'm very skeptical of it. I'm not excited for it, to be honest with you.
It looked better than the teaser we got
earlier.
Agree. So I what I'll say is you could tell they've done a lot of reshoots. You could tell that, I was really skeptical when I got the teaser, but this looked like a real full-fledged television show.
Yeah.
I agree with you on the soundtrack. It seems like that they're... So if anybody that's ever read the Ms. Marvel comics, all of her dialogue is in lowercase letters, and they did that in the trailer, with the thought bubbles and everything else. It was all really cool. And the music, James Gunn really built this formula with the original Guardians of the Galaxy. You put a soundtrack together with great music around a certain genre or era, and you make that the soundtrack of the movie, and the movie is now known for that soundtrack. And it sounds like that's what they're doing with the Weeknd song. This is the type of music that's going to front this show, obviously catering more towards the modern kind of teen, kind of young adult audience.
It's a coming of age type of show, right? She's in high school. She's a high school student in New Jersey, Jersey City, and it's more of a coming of age type of, and that music is brilliant. Again, the treatment was great. I'm just not excited for this, and I'll state, how'd you feel about her power set?
Well, we had some theories or rumors around what they were going to do with her powers. So her powers, again, we won't go into the full kind of preview of this until we get closer to the show, but we'll touch on it a little bit. In the comic books, very similar backstory where she's a teenager who's a Captain Marvel super fan, that's what she's playing in the television shows as well.
She's an Inhuman, though.
That's what I'm saying. In the comic books, what ends up happening is she's a Captain Marvel super fan, and a Terrigen Mist bomb lands on the New York City area.
Yeah, close to her, and she's affected by it.
Ends up making her go through what's called Terrigenesis, which is if you're an Inhuman, a latent Inhuman, and you're exposed to Terrigen Mist, you go through Terrigenesis. And
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. type of stuff, right?
Yeah, it was all featured in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show. But you get enveloped in a cocoon, and then when you hatch from the cocoon, then you have
superpowers,
some kind of modification, right?
Doesn't look like they're going down that trail.
No, they're not. And I think for a few reasons. One, had they introduced the Inhumans into the MCU properly, which they had planned to do years ago. That was on the slate of movies for Marvel's Phase 3, and it was dropped in favor of a television show that bombed. But had they been introduced, I do think they would have gone through Terrigenesis and just made her an Inhuman. But it looks like to me what they're doing with her powers is they're making them very similar to Captain Marvel's powers from the way that they're displayed on the screen, same color scheme, the way the energy bubbles off of her body.
Like a cosmic energy. She even says in there, cosmic. It feels cosmic.
And it looks like, and again, we don't know this for certain, but it looks like from the trailer that the reason why she gets these powers to begin with is there's some kind of bracelet that she finds and puts on, which then gives her these powers, and then she has to learn how to use them. But that's going to be like the background to it. Now, what is that bracelet, right? And there's a lot of theories and questions out there.
Everything.
Is her mom a Skrull, and it's old Skrull technology, or is it potentially stolen Kree technology? Are they the Negabands that end up belonging to Nova? There's all kinds of questions, but it does...
Some kind of artifact that she puts on. You're correct, Professor. Is some kind of bracelet that she puts on. Is she part of that ancient Jinn type of clan, part of clandestiny, that group? And I think they're the protagonists in this. I don't know. There's a lot of rumors and speculation. We do know there are two protagonists in this. We do know that clandestiny...
Antagonists?
What am I saying?
Those are the villains.
Antagonists.
Protagonists are the heroes, right?
Well, she's the protagonist, Professor, right?
Right, exactly.
I just want to make sure I got that one right.
Yeah, right.
So there are two villains in this, and I think there's a government agency called NICE that's trying to hunt her down, and then the clandestiny, which is a group of supposedly Inhumans, but now they're not going to be Inhumans.
Genie worshippers.
They're kind of jinns, which are like the ancient Arabic genies that I think is a type of race. She could be that. This bracelet could enact those powers. She could get powers
it
from
basically
it.
could have uncovered these latent abilities that she had.
Maybe they might pull something like like a Peter Quill, like where he's not really all human. He's
Right.
kind of a
part something else.
yeah, and that the stone kind of unlocked that. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see. But again, I'm very skeptical of this. I hope they get it right. They really need to. There's a lot riding on it.
Well, she's already going to be in the Marvel's movie next year. So
Yeah.
she is in that movie. The character of Kamala Khan is in that movie. The actress that plays her is in that movie. It's already well known. So this is really kind of exposing us to her as a character and making sure that we're aware of who she is so that when we see her in the movie, we're not strange to her. And again, they did make it seem like they were trying to tie what her powers look like and what Captain Marvel's powers look like, cosmic energy.
Her glow of her eyes in that one scene, that one shot.
Right.
We know she's a huge fan of Captain Marvel and superheroes in general. She's kind of an artist, writer, and she wears the T-shirts, and she's a fangirl. But we will see how all this plays out. Coming of age, young girl from high school. I don't know, man. I'm going on record as saying I'm very skeptical. I hope they get it right, but very skeptical. I'm not excited as I was with Moon Knight.
I think, like anything from Marvel, it'll be good. Whether or not it's great and we love it is a different story.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good and it'll be entertaining. And the other big part of this is we got a release date. So June 8th.
June 8th, yeah.
Was announced officially when the trailer dropped. So we know that this is coming June 8th. And we speculated last week that we would get the Moon Knight run and then the Obi-Wan series that's coming, the Star Wars series is coming, and that would have its run, and then we get Ms. Marvel after it. Well, the release date tells us Obi-Wan and Ms. Marvel are going to overlap.
Yeah.
So they're going to have two different competing series, from different, obviously different kinds of series on Disney Plus, but at the same time. First time they've ever done that, but hey, more power to them. I mean, maybe they're now feeling some pressure. They got to get some of the stuff out. You know?
Perhaps we'll see. But again, I'm going to go on record. But we'll see.
All right. Well, yeah, it was great. It was better than the teaser. I feel better about it than I did before.
I agree with you.
And the powers did look. Again, while it's definitely more energy-based, more akin to the Green Lantern.
It's not her comic book powers where it's like polymorphous, where she embiggens herself and stuff, or whatever it's called.
She takes mass from
there
her future self.
There were scenes where her fist did get bigger.
She had, the big fist came out. Whether it was an extension of her arm or the actual arm, we don't know.
And there's a scene where she's kind of jumping through the air where it looks like her legs are elongated, but I'm not going to make any predictions until I see more of it. I hope they did more of that to kind of at least mirror some of her comic book.
Most of the stuff they showed in the trailer, though, was like her creating these like energy fields,
energy
and
blasts.
shields, and she could walk on these energy bubbles and all kinds of other things. So it really wasn't what we traditionally would know of her power. So it definitely looks like they changed them a lot, but I'm sure there's reasons behind it.
Okay.
So we'll see. All right, well, let's get into the news section for the week. And one of the things you mentioned this week, we got the Disney Plus. Netflix released the Disney released the Netflix series on Disney Plus last week, and they were released with no edits.
Shocking.
Yeah. So
we were kind of crossing our fingers, right? You and I, Professor.
We were hoping that they didn't, censor them.
Right.
And I believe, again, from Kevin Feige's statements, this is ushering in a new era of Marvel content, and we can just say like R-rated content is now going to be on Disney Plus, and the parental controls that they put in place.
Yeah,
that
was released the day before or something like that. You had to sign on to Disney Plus and redo your parental controls.
Yep, and so that's out there now. So hey, the fact that they didn't censor or edit those episodes at all,
that's a great sign. Yeah.
And again, I think I don't know. We haven't heard anything official from Disney or Marvel. But I do believe this opens the door for us finally getting DeadPool and Deadpool 2 on Disney Plus. And it's really strange because they do have these contracts with other services like Epix and Netflix and Hulu and which they own. But they do have some like obligations they have to see through. But when those obligations are over, I wouldn't be surprised if that R-rated Sony content or Fox content comes
Logan,
back.
perhaps?
Yeah, I would love. Yeah, please.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that Don Cheadle. Samuel L. Jackson came out and said that Don Cheadle was going to be
Confirmed
in
for Secret
Invasion.
Yep, Secret Invasion. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's a good sign.
And we have heard or assumed that his Armor Wars series is going to be following the Secret Invasion series. They haven't begun to shoot that series yet, but in the schedule of things that kind of were released, we believe that was one that was going to follow on to Secret Invasion. So it only makes sense that maybe he does cameo or have a small role in Secret Invasion, which would follow
would
into
make
the
sense.
Armor
That
Wars.
would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Samuel Jackson is kind of spewing a lot of info. Then Marvel's like, Sam, shut up, quit spoiling all this shit for us. And it sounds like Sam Jackson's going to be in quite a few things.
It does.
Yeah, which is great. I like him.
Oh yeah,
Director Fury.
Great Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then we also got a big announcement that Euphoria Sydney Sweeney has been cast in the new Madam Web kind of Spider-Man spin-off movie that Sony's doing.
Did your daughter contact you when this news hit?
No.
Oh, mine did.
Yeah.
Both of them did.
Yeah.
And then all their friends did.
Yeah, no. Not
Really?
at all.
Oh,
No.
I guess they're big Euphoria watchers.
Yeah,
or fans
I don't know
of
if
the
my
show.
daughter is or not, but
Zendaya's in it as well,
Yeah.
that show. Apparently she's blowing up right now. She's one of the hottest young actresses out there. It's a big get for Sony.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of people
So
are
the
excited
question
about
is,
this.
what role is she playing? And there's some theories out there of what she could be playing. Could she be playing Spider-Gwen? Gwen Stacy, the Spider-Gwen?
Maybe Black Cat?
Black Cat, potentially.
Felicity?
But why would that be in a Madam Web movie? That's one of the things that I'm just kind of confused about.
I think this Madam
Spider-Gwen
Web
is more of I think
more realistic.
realistic.
I think
that would
this
be a
is going to
huge
be.
role for her to be.
I agree, but I think this is going to be a Miss Marvel type Sony flick. It's going to be all about the chicks. I think this is going to be their powerful woman type of story.
Okay.
So could she be Spider-Woman?
Featuring
I think
female... Spider-Woman, potentially.
Yeah.
Featuring female heroes in the Spider-Verse, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I think that's what they're going for here with this Madam Web.
But the reason why Black Cat just is strange, because she's a very complex character in the Spider-Man comics. Felicia Hardy plays basically a cat burglar, very similar to Catwoman in the Batman comic books.
The DC world.
Yeah, but she's she's basically a criminal who ends up being very agile and having some abilities, but ends up becoming a love interest of Spider-Man at certain point in times. But very similar. I mean, similar relationship to Batman and Catwoman in that respect. But to introduce her in that movie, it'd be interesting. But I mean, who knows? But the fact that she's been cast, like you said, a big get for Sony.
Big get. She's a hot young actress.
All right, and then
Smoke show.
Yeah.
Did I say that already?
No.
If I haven't, let me say it. Smoke show.
One of the reasons why she was cast, I'm sure. And then another thing I saw that so Ryan Reynolds has his own production company called Maximum Effort,
Right.
which is hysterical, totally based on Daredevil, which is awesome. And
Deadpool.
it did
Based on
Deadpool.
It's okay. He's a protagonist.
Yes, exactly. But it did. Maximum Effort did produce the Adam Project and helped produce Free Guy as well. So these are Ryan Reynolds' own production companies that he uses to help make projects. Well, Maximum Effort is co-producing Deadpool 3 with Marvel. That is huge news.
Yeah.
So not only is Ryan Reynolds starring in Deadpool 3, but his production company is co-producing the movie, which means he is being given a lot of authority over how this movie is being made and what's in the movie because he is producing the movie.
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
Absolutely.
So that's a huge announcement.
That is.
The only other movies...
Has Marvel ever done that before?
With Sony. That's it.
Yeah,
So
wow.
so the only other movies, the Tom Holland movies that they made with Sony were co-produced by Sony Pictures and Marvel. This is the first other time that Marvel's ever done a project that's been co-produced
The
by...
Home series, the trilogy,
Yeah,
the Home series.
Home series, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's big news.
It is huge news. And
Gives
again,
you that much insight on how much he has to do with the outcome of that movie.
well, and it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable about what they're going to be doing with that character, knowing that Ryan Reynolds is going to be
He's not-
heavily
yeah.
heavily involved.
He's not going to soften it.
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah. And then you can just guarantee the R rating there, right?
There you go. Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly. And Kevin Feige came out publicly and said, we are not going to censor Deadpool. We're not. I mean, we're going to, why would we take a character that's beloved and has done so well and change it? I mean, that's just stupid of us. You know, he said, so that's great. Great news.
Good news.
And good for Ryan Reynolds. I mean, he's earned it. And then I don't know if you saw, was it this morning or last night? I can't remember if it was this morning or last night, but Marvel did release a new clip from the Moon Knight series.
Nope.
Oh, you're going dark?
I went dark.
Oh, okay.
When I saw the show notes that you wrote that in there, it took every ounce of my being not to look that up.
Well, this is a very...
Is it a good clip?
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's...
You can talk about it. I'm just not going to watch it.
It's less than 30 seconds. It's
Okay.
a 30-second clip. But this is very common marketing that Marvel does. The closer they get to these series being released, like they may release like a small clip from the actual show just to kind of get you a little bit more interested, get you some insight into what the episodes.
Oh, the big guy's gone dark.
Yeah,
I've gone dark.
No, it was I guess the female in the movie, the female character, the female protagonist in the movie, friend of
Mark Spector.
She looks at.
She's talking. She has some lines.
She looks at. It wasn't Mark. It's
Stevie Grant.
Steven. She goes, Steven. She's like, summon the suit, and he's like, what do you mean summon the suit? And then she's like, summon the suit.
All right.
And there's a reason why they're running. I won't spoil it for you. But,
okay.
Yeah, so
good clip.
It's a good clip.
Man, I'm fired up for that show.
Yeah, but I think we'll see a few more of these, maybe a handful of them. I mean, again, they're 15 to 20 to 30 second clips. They're not anything substantial. But I think we'll see a few more of these before the series premieres on the 30th. So,
did it look like it could be in the first episode or probably not?
yes, I would believe that.
Really?
Anything I think they're showing is in the first episode.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't think they're going deeper into the series.
The reason why I went dark is twofold. One is that they've already had a lot of journalists and a lot of insiders. They showed them the first 4 episodes, including the end credits. The first episode is 45 minutes. The other ones are 50 minutes, and the last
How do you know
one
this
is
if you went dark?
55 minutes. Because as soon as they released that, and I saw that journalists and insiders had seen it, because I saw that, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm not going to read or see any more clips. I'm done. I don't want to ruin it.
Well, they have an embargo. They cannot talk about this episodes until the 29th, I believe, the day before the series comes out. Now, a lot of them have come out and given their first impressions without any spoilers or talking about the plot or anything. They can basically come out and say, I loved it. And first impressions have been... I did see some first impressions, knowing that there weren't any spoilers in it. They've been very favorable. The first impressions have been...
Shocking.
Right. But the first impressions have been, this is a game changer.
Oh,
This is a game changer for Marvel. This
show's going to kick ass.
This is so innovative, they said. Innovative.
Ooh.
And that was one of the words that I heard used, innovative. And they're just like, this series will change everything.
Kevin Feige says this is something different. It's a tonal shift.
Right.
This is Moon Knight. I can't wait.
I know.
It's going to be
you
awesome.
and I are so excited.
Yeah.
So we weren't given the first 4 episodes just to...
You know what?
preview?
I think they got lost in the mail.
Yeah. Our invite got lost in the mail.
Dog ate them or something.
Someday, Tony. Someday.
Someday.
But yeah, so I saw that was today, and again, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a couple more of these before the 30th. They just want to keep us interested. That being said, another thing I did hear was that highly likely we get finally that Thor: Love and Thunder trailer sometime in the next week.
Wow.
And so if we're recording the show next episode and we still haven't gotten it, then I might start getting worried, as we were discussing last week, about the future or the timeline of that movie. But I believe we're going to get a trailer sometime in the next week, which would make me feel a lot better.
Okay. We're about 100 days out for that movie.
Yeah, it's well overdue. I mean, that trailer is well overdue. But I do believe, I think that they're trying not to take away from the promotion they're doing for Moon Knight. But I do believe at some point, and it's not like it would. I mean, sure, it's what we would be talking about, but I think we're all excited about Moon Knight regardless, right? So,
yeah.
And who knows? Maybe it comes out on the 30th, the day that Moon Knight premieres. So that would be, a week and a couple days from now, but which would not take away from Moon Knight because we're watching it at that point in time. But I think we're close to getting that finally. And again, if we're recording the next episode or two and we still haven't gotten it, then I'd be like, okay, this is not coming out in July.
Yeah.
Right. That's when I'd be concerned.
Okay. I like your optimism.
All right. Well, let's move into the topic of the week this week. And we are going to do a preview of the Morbius movie. So as we did last week with Moon Knight, Morbius comes out in theaters on April 1st. This movie has been delayed substantially. It was supposed to come out in May 2020. So we are now getting this movie almost 2 years from when it was originally supposed to be released. So this movie has been on the shelf, mostly completed, for a long time. Now, we believe, and from what we've seen in some of the most recent trailers, they put some extra money and time and effort and energy into some of the special effects and some other things that maybe they...
It looks fantastic.
Looks great.
He looks great. Now, I did see this and I did read this. They did a preview for some critics, and it was not received very well. They basically said it's kind of boring. It's very similar to Venom 2, Venom 1 maybe. If you loved the Venom movies, you will love this. If you didn't like Venom 1 and 2, you're not going to like this, which is a little disappointing for me. So I think that the delays, I think a lot of people assume because it was delayed so much that they're going to see one of the Spider-Mans in this or a Spider tie-in some way, somewhere, somewhat. And if they don't get that, the critics are going to shit can it. And I don't think that's fair. So I think we're going to see something where Rotten Tomatoes, critic-wise, it's going to be in the 50s. And then fan-wise, it'll be 80s, maybe. I think that's what I think. So I hope not, because it looks spectacular. But I could be wrong.
I agree with you, Titanium. I think if you and I walked into that movie expecting nothing else than a standalone movie about a character, Morbius, we would be very entertained and very pleasantly surprised. Unfortunately, we're now all asking questions. How does this tie into the MCU? How does this tie into the Sonyverse? How does this tie into the Venomverse? Where are the interactions? What characters might we see? Oh my God, the Vulture's in it. Does that mean that he's coming to the MCU?
Yeah.
All these questions, we now have these expectations.
Is it part of the Spider-Verse?
Right.
We don't know.
We have all these expectations now, I think, unfortunately. And I think it's going to cloud our judgment. I think we need to walk into it thinking, let's just get ourselves introduced to this character.
Yeah.
And how well did Jared Leto play that character, and how much did we enjoy the story, and not really wondering where it goes from there.
Yeah.
Can we just be happy with a standalone movie?
Again, I'm excited for it. I'm going to go in with a positive, kind of an even-keeled expectation. Exactly what you just said. I'm not looking for any tie-ins. I'm looking for a standalone origin story. And then when he comes in other movies, that'll be great, but not this one.
I'm going into it with the same mindset I had when I saw Venom Let There Be Carnage. I was somewhat disappointed in the first Venom movie, and we've talked about this on the show before, but just the treatment of the Venom character and how they chose to introduce that character to us in the movies, it was just a money grab. They're like, oh, this is a popular character, let's do the Lethal Protector version of it. And it's like, that's not how I got introduced. You got to have this, conflict between him and Peter Parker, and it just never happened. Eddie Brock and Peter Parker hate each other, and that's why Venom becomes Venom, and eventually he has a redemption arc. That never happened. So I was disappointed in that. But when Let There Be Carnage came out, I went into it with very low expectations, thinking, okay, it might be entertaining, but I'm not really, excited about this. Yeah. And so I'm walking into this movie with similar expectations, but the fact that it's the first time we're seeing this character, and I'm really excited about what they do with it. I'm a little actually more excited than I was with the Venom movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was, I liked the first Venom movie. I went in with very low expectations for the first Venom movie, and I was pleasantly surprised. I liked it. I liked the second Venom movie. Very disappointed in. I thought Woody Harrelson. I'm a huge fan, especially with him in the Star Wars, the Solo flick. I think he carried that movie, but I was disappointed in it. I didn't like the way they portrayed him. It was kind of corny and cheesy. So I liked it, but those two movies were not my favorite movies. So if this is comparable to those, I'm going to be a little disappointed. But how can it be? I mean, the trailer looks off the charts.
Well, and again, who knows what the future of this character is? Is it an MCU crossover? We don't know. Is this going to be part of the Spider-Verse? We don't know. We know Sony's doing a Kraven the Hunter movie. It makes it seem like there's going to be some tie-ins with Spider-Man at some point in time with the Sinister Six or some. They're doing something. We don't. And again, very different than what Marvel's doing. Marvel's painting a picture and building a pathway towards the future, whereas Sony's just releasing these kind of independent projects, and ultimately they may decide to tie some of them. We have no idea. They haven't come out and told us what their vision is, right?
Yeah.
We kind of knew that with Marvel. When we got the Iron Man movie and the Thor movie and the Captain America movie, and we got those knowing that it was leading up to this Avengers movie, right?
Sure.
And we just don't know what Sony's doing,
Yeah.
or if it's tied in with the MCU at all. Look, I would love nothing more than to see Morbius come into the MCU and cross over with characters like Blade and Ghost Rider and other things, right? But we just don't know. We don't know if that's even possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's talk. We'll talk about the character itself, because I think largely that's what this movie's about.
Yeah,
it's about an origin story for the Morbius character, and then understand. And I think
Michael Morbius,
right? And building him up as kind of a anti-hero, because that's effectively what he is. He's a really good dude who had a horrible disease and was able to find a cure, but it hurt him as much as it helped him, right? And we'll kind of talk through that. So Michael Morbius, first appearance of the Morbius character in the comic books was in Amazing Spider-Man number 101, which came out in 1971. Long time ago. So this character's been around for 50 years, 51 years now. But Michael Morbius, the character played by Jared Leto in the movies, was born with this rare blood disorder, which they featured in the trailer several times. He has this rare blood disorder that makes him frail and fragile and weak, and he is not the only one suffering from this blood disorder. Many others are as well. And so he makes it his life's mission to find a cure for this blood disorder. His best friend, Emil Nikos, who's been played by Jared Harris in the movie, so that character is in the movie, was his best friend in the comic books. They were both scientists and worked together to help find a cure for this blood disease. They decided to experiment with this treatment that featured vampire bats. So they're like, well, if we can use vampire bats' blood and electricity and kind of shock therapy, things like that, if we can combine the vampire blood with electricity, maybe we can cure this blood disease. And ultimately, and we saw kind of I don't know how that scene's going to play out in the movies, but we saw the scene of him putting his hands up on these wires and the vampires coming in and he cuts his hand, and who knows what's going to happen with all that. But ultimately it does cure him, but it gives him this bloodlust. He's now forced to consume blood to survive.
Yeah.
But it does not only cure his blood disorder, but it gives him superhuman powers and makes him what we call like a pseudo vampire. He's not a real vampire because he was created through chemically and not I guess magically. But he has some of the same weaknesses as vampires, but not all of their weaknesses. But he does have a bunch of superpowers as well. So we'll kind of talk through that. When he first met Spider-Man in the comic books, this was a period of time in the comics where Spider-Man had actually grown 6 arms. His body had mutated to the point where he had 2 extra arms.
Yeah.
And there, you go back and look at the comics in the early 70s, and you'll see comic books with Spider-Man having 6 arms, actually being an 8-legged creature, which is kind of funny. But he tangles with Spider-Man and Dr. Connors, actually the lizard character, as well. And he ends up, Morbius, as they're fighting, ends up biting Dr. Connors when he's the lizard character,
curing him,
and it turns him into a human.
Right.
And they're like, wait a minute, maybe Morbius's blood is the key to curing our afflictions, our mutations, right? And they end up, being able to get some of Morbius's blood, and it does cure Spider-Man, and it does temporarily cure Kurt Connors as well. So that was kind of the first time that Spider-Man and Morbius got together in the comic books. Martine Bancroft, a character in the comic books, played by Adria Arjona, is fiance in the comic books. They're actually engaged in the comic books, and she was in love with Michael Morbius and knew that he was a good person, but he was now saddled with this bloodlust that he could never really satisfy. She tried to help find a cure for him and actually solicited the help of some of the heroes, including Mr. Fantastic, to help find the cure. But she's in the movie, and we'll see her featured there as well. At one point in time, he was struck by lightning in the comic books, which cured him. So similar to, think about the Flash got his powers through being exposed to these chemicals while being struck by lightning. Well, Michael Morbius was cured of his blood disorder by combining these vampire bat blood with electricity, and so being struck by lightning kind of turned him back into human for a few years. And he actually worked with the Avengers and the West Coast Avengers and was actually a helpful kind of scientist at that point in time. And eventually go figure, his vampirism came back.
They brought it back because he
was a boring character as a doctor, and he was a fun character as a vampire, right? Mm-hmm. There was a character in the comic books, which we do believe we're seeing some part of this in the movie, Dr. Aloysius Crown, who's being played by Matt Smith in the movie. In the comic books was a Hydra scientist. So he was a Hydra scientist, and he had captured Morbius and was experimenting on him, trying to find a way that Hydra could use Morbius's disease as a way to kind of empower other individuals and give them superpowers and make this army of superpowered, pseudo-vampires. So Spider-Man ends up helping Morbius escape from Dr. Crown and saves him, but during the fight, Morbius ends up killing Dr. Crown by basically sucking all of his blood out. But it ends up turning him into a character called Hunger, which is very similar powers to Morbius, kind of a living vampire. But he ends up dying, but then coming back as a character called Hunger. And we believe we're going to see that character as the villain, the antagonist in the movie is going to be that Hunger character, who are now cool. Another version of Morbius fighting against him.
Could it be his friend that he's in the movie with?
Yeah. So I think they're using the backstory of the two of them growing up together, both suffering from the same blood disorder. They're kind of changing his backstory in the movie. Instead of being a Hydra scientist, you kind of get that in the
trailer. Yeah.
Instead of being a Hydra scientist, he's
another scientist that helped him get the Nobel Peace Prize.
Right, and then ends up becoming jealous because he's been cured. And
because in the comics, I think he kills his friend or bites him and sucks the blood out of him.
So that's the other guy. So that's the other guy in the movie. The one that's talking to him saying, can you control it? That's the guy who is his buddy.
Okay.
In the comic books, was his best friend in the comics, and he's the one who he ends up killing because he can't control his bloodlust. Yeah. Right. He's the first one he ends up killing. So just kind of powers. What kind of powers does Morbius have? Again, he's a pseudo vampire because it's a scientific transformation into a vampire. He's
not a true vampire blood.
Right. He's not a descendant of Dracula. Right. He's not he hasn't been turned into a vampire by other vampires. Right. Again, he does have similar weaknesses as vampires. So he has an aversion to sunlight, but sunlight won't kill him. Like vampires, if they're out in the sun, they'll die.
Yeah, they burn to death.
Right. Whereas Morbius is very sensitive to sunlight, but he can be out there and it just will hurt him, but it's not going to kill him, right? But he's not vulnerable to things like silver and a wooden stake to the heart and the crucifix and all these other things. That doesn't affect him. Holy water, that has no effect on him whatsoever. But he does have superhuman speed, strength, stamina, agility, and reflexes, so he can move incredibly fast. Has incredible fast reflexes. Is super strong. He does have superhuman senses as well, so he can completely see in total darkness. He can see the infrared spectrum.
Echolocation.
Yes, yeah, they show that in the trailers that he has some form of echolocation, so he can kind of, just like a bat would, kind of see the surroundings from sound. But he does have infrared vision as well, so he can like basically see heat signatures, and he can smell a drop of blood from a mile away. Those types, of, similar to things to what a vampire might be able to do. And he does have a superhuman healing factor as well, so he can be injured and recover and heal very quickly. Wow. That's another part of his disease or the vampirism. And he's able to fly short distances, so he does it psionically. So he uses kind of sound to help propel him, and he has to concentrate very hard to do it, but he's able to fly short distances. It's not like he can fly like Superman. He can fly for, like 30 minutes, and then he has to stop.
Based on whatever sound is around him, right?
Yeah. So he uses sound waves to kind of like
So in the movie,
fly.
you see him flying with a subway train behind him.
And it's the subway train sound that's helping him fly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so very cool. So I'm sure we're going to see some of those powers, if not all of them, in the movies. And again, I think they're really using this movie as a way to introduce us to the character, and its origin story, and then, build some villains up for this character. And then who knows what they're going to do with the character going forward. We don't know, but I think that's what we can look forward to. I
think it would behoove them to put him in other movies besides just an origin.
There's got to be a future, right?
Sure, right?
Yeah, they're going to do something.
You nail down a huge star like Gerard Leto, and you only have him in one movie? I don't think so. But good.
Well, and Jared Leto's doing a really good job of promoting this movie even 2 years later. He's really behind the character.
Oh, he's out there,
and he loved playing it. He's really behind this project. So we'll see. I think it'll do well in the theaters. I don't expect blockbuster numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does 300 to 400 million. In the theaters. Decent kind of respectable numbers for a comic book movie. I'm sure. We're looking forward to seeing it. That's no question. So we'll go check it out.
No disrespect. I'm going to make my own decisions. I'm not going to listen to critics or any of that stuff.
And you're going dark, so you're going to,
I'm going dark on MoonKnight. I'm still reading the trades.
All right.
Professor, let's ring the bell. Great show. Thanks for the recap.
Well, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week for more Super Talk. To get in touch with us on social media, hit us up via email, supertalkpodcast@outlook.com, or @supertalkpod on Twitter. Until then, stay super, everyone.
And we're out.
Just as a dog barks.
That
was awesome. Good timing, Titan.
Thank you, YouTube.
Thanks,
Please
YouTube.
like and subscribe.
Black Viper. Everyone likes this game. Haters gonna hate. And I know you can't wait to see the Black Viper. Round and round she goes. Hardly no one knows. In her black lady hose.